Today's big idea is bigger than a chew toy for Clifford the Big Red Dog. Wow, that would be big. Oh my goodness. Because today's big idea is we can share the good news of Jesus. Hey Kids Club, I'm May and it's true. We can share the good news of Jesus. Yeah, we can... I've never noticed this old-timey phone here before. I wonder who's calling. Hello?
Hi. Before you go any further, I have a very important question.
Oh, wow. Well, please, ask away.
How can we share the good news if we're not exactly sure what it is?
Wow, what a great point. Thanks for calling, and I've got something that I think will explain. Mysterious kid from the red phone and all of Kids Club, watch this. How did you get this number?
God's story, the good news. So part of God's story is about the gospel, or the good news, and it goes like this. In the beginning, God made everything. The sun, the moon, stars, planets, the entire galaxy. And Earth was part of that creation. God made mountains and oceans and forests and deserts and animals that crawled on the ground and flew in the air and swam in the water. Then he made people, Adam and Eve, to live in a garden called Eden. And God called everything he had made good. There was just one rule. Adam and Eve could eat anything they wanted except for the fruit from this one tree. But a snake tricked Adam and Eve into disobeying that one rule. Because of that, sickness, sadness, and all kinds of bad things came into God's perfect creation, all because people made wrong choices. Part of how God punished Adam and Eve was by not allowing them in the perfect garden anymore. And if that were the end of the story, that would be bad news for us. That would mean all the wrong stuff in the world would never be made right. But God still loved people, and he had good news for them. He was going to send a rescuer. So they waited, and waited, and waited. Then one day, the rescuer was born as a baby named Jesus. Christmas is when we celebrate the good news of Jesus being born. But it's not just that he was born, it's what he did later that was the best news of all. He took the punishment for all the wrong choices that anyone has ever made anywhere. See, all of us have continued to make wrong choices, just like Adam and Eve did. And just like Adam and Eve, we deserve to be punished for our wrong choices. But here's the thing, Jesus, the rescuer, never made a single bad choice. Kids, think about a time you made a bad choice. Maybe telling a lie, or taking something that wasn't yours, or hurting another person with something you did or said. Can you believe that whatever that was, Jesus never made a choice like that? And even though he never made a bad choice, he still took the punishment for our wrong choices? And then Jesus did something even more completely unexpected. He came back to life. Really, you can read about it in the Bible, in the stories written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We call those books Gospels, which is just an old fancy word for, you guessed it, the good news of Jesus coming to earth, dying for our wrong choices, and coming back to life. That's what we celebrate on Easter. But not just because coming back to life is totally amazing. By coming back to life, Jesus was showing that God can make anything new. There's nothing God can't do. He's more powerful than any sadness, shame, wrong choice, disease, disaster, and even death. And that's the best, most amazing good news of all. It's so amazing, Jesus' friends told everyone they could find about the good news. And those people told other people. And those people told other people. And on, and that's still happening today. In fact, you just heard the good news, and the Bible says, if you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. That's another way to say God rescues us. And that rescue includes you, your friends, your family, and anyone else in the whole world. And that's the story of the good news. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. God made a perfect world. People made mistakes and the world isn't perfect anymore. God promised his family a rescuer. The rescuer's name is Jesus. Jesus died to take a punishment we deserve, but he didn't stay dead. Jesus came back to life because Jesus can make anything new. And that's a part of God's story.
I hope that cleared a few things up. Excuse me. Hello?
Me again. I think I get it now. Thanks.
That's great.
The number you have dialed
Hello?
has been changed.
Well, anyway, the big idea for today is totally true. We can help share the good news of Jesus. And now that we know what the good news is and why it's so good, let's talk about actually sharing it. Who do we share it with? How do we share it? Sometimes when you're learning to do something new, it helps to hear the story of someone who's done it before. And there's a guy in the Bible who shared the good news of Jesus with lots of people. His name was Paul. Hello?
Me again.
I thought it might be you.
How many people did Paul share the good news with?
That's a great question. And hey, maybe you could save the rest of your questions for the end of the episode?
You got it.
Awesome. Keep watching. I'll see if I can answer that question. We don't know exactly how many people Paul told about Jesus, but we do know that he probably spent more than 25 years telling people about Jesus. We know that he traveled here, and 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 all these places. Let's find out a little more about Paul and the places he went by watching this. This is part of the story of a guy named Paul. Before Paul was Paul, he was Saul. Saul didn't like followers of God. In fact, he hated them. But Saul's life was changed forever when he met God. He stopped trying to hurt people who loved God, and his name was changed from Saul to Paul. Paul was a missionary. That meant he told people about God all over the place. He told people about God in his city and outside his city. He told people about God in his country and outside of his country. Paul did this because he knew that God loves everyone, and he wanted everyone else to know that too. Somebody had to tell them, and for a lot of people, that somebody was Paul. Now, Paul went to a lot of places. He went to Seleucia, Cyprus,
Antioch, Iconium, Syria, Greece, Philippi, Thessalonica, Berea, Corinth, Ephesus, Caesarea, Crete, Rome.
Basically all over this area of the world. On his first trip, Paul probably walked. That trip was about 1,400 miles. That's like walking across 12,320 football fields. Twice! If you tried to do that today, it would take about 450 hours. If you walked for 12 hours a day, that would take about 38 days. In Iconium, lots of people believed Paul and his friend Barnabas when they spoke about Jesus, which was great. But there were also a lot of people who didn't believe, and they didn't want to hear any more teaching from Paul, like permanently. So the Iconian leaders planned to stone Paul. That meant they were going to throw stones at Paul and Barnabas until they died. Big stones. More like rocks. Bigger. Yeah, like that. And that probably would have happened, except that a friend told Paul what was being planned and helped him escape. Whew! On Paul's other trips, he might have walked, or ridden a camel. Maybe he traveled by boat. Sometimes Paul was welcomed, sometimes he was chased off. Sometimes he was thrown in jail for sharing about God. Sometimes God used Paul to heal people. Sometimes people were so amazed that they thought Paul was a god. Sometimes people were so mad that they tried to kill Paul. But no matter where Paul was, or how he got there, or what happened to him while he was there, it seemed like nothing could stop Paul from telling people about Jesus. Paul was willing to do anything because he had been completely changed by Jesus. The same Jesus who had died and rose again. It was something he couldn't stop sharing. And Paul wasn't the only one who would choose to share God's love with people around the world. Lots of people have spent their lives telling and showing people how to follow God. God will continue to do amazing things through people who love Him. People like you. And I can't wait to hear those stories. Wow, Paul shared the good news of Jesus with so many people. But we don't have to travel by boat or ride a camel to share the good news. I mean, you can, but you could also do it right where you are. You can tell your friends and your family and your neighbors about the good news of Jesus. That's how the good news spreads to the whole world. Let me put it this way. Here's Liz. Let's say Liz tells 3 friends about the good news of Jesus. And those 3 people tell 3 friends. And then those people all tell 3 friends. And those tell 3. That's almost 250 people who hear the good news. You know, I know someone who can explain this idea in a different way. Mr. Science.
Mr. Science.
Hi there, I'm Mr. Science. I love science, I love Jesus, and I love how they work together. Today, we're talking about things that grow exponentially. That's a big word. That means it starts out really small, but gets bigger very, very fast. Lots of things grow exponentially. Some of those things are wonderful, like yeast that makes bread dough rise, or sugar crystals that form rock candy. Yummy! And some of those things are not so wonderful, like nasty mold on your favorite fruit or a raging wildfire. Yuck! Okay, let's do a little experiment. In this cylinder, I have a small amount of water, and I am going to add some yeast to it. Now remember, yeast is that stuff that makes bread dough rise and get bigger. And in this beaker, I am going to put in a small amount of something called hydrogen peroxide. Right here, about half of this beaker, like that. Awesome. All right, so now I am also going to add in some dish soap. Give it another little swirl. And just for fun, we will make it green with food coloring. All right, there we go. Now, when I add these 2 things together, something amazing is going to happen. Did you see that? When we share the good news of Jesus, something amazing can happen there too. We can share the good news by telling other people, or being kind and loving, or patient, or being helpful. And the more people share the good news, the more amazing things get. I'm Mr. Science, and that's the truth.
Mr. Science.
Incredible! We can help share the good news of Jesus. And when we do, it's beautiful and crazy amazing. And now, it's time for I bet I know who this is. Hey! How are ya?
Fine. I need to talk to Mr. Dia. First name, Casey.
Ooh, you're not who I was expecting. And I'm kind of in the middle of something, but let me ask around. Is there a Casey Dia here? Looking for a Casey Dia? Wait. Oh, it was a prank. Very funny. Anyway, as I was saying, it's time for a Hello? Just trying to finish my thought here.
It's me.
Oh, hi!
Can I help you with the recap?
Sure, but you gotta say it with some feeling. 3, 2, 1.
Recap!
Nice! You go ahead. I'm gonna enjoy this quesadilla.
Well, we can share the good news of Jesus. like people have been doing for a long time. Paul did it by traveling all over the world, and we can do it too. And when we do, God does amazing things.
Nicely done, kid.
Now, about those questions I had. Is cereal a soup? Do you like pineapple on your pizza?
Oh.
What's the worst haircut you've ever had? What's your favorite joke?
Oh,
Is sushi only for girls? What's your favorite video game? Have you ever been on a TV show?